So my name is Andy Clark. I work for ExactTarget. So I do strategic partnerships with them, which means I get the fun and enviable job of meeting with a lot of small and even big startups here in Indy, New York, Austin, and spend a lot of time out on the West Coast. So wanted to share with you a little bit today about what a lot of things that I've seen as I've done my travels and evaluated companies. Before I do that though, I want to give a quick kind of background on myself. So I have DNA in both Purdue and Butler here in town, and have worked for 3 successful startups here in Indianapolis, and help out a ton of startups on the side as well. So how to commercialize their technology, how to get funding, just reviewing and modifying their business models. So anyways, today just wanted to hit on, there's so much you could talk about, but I wanted to give you guys kind of 3 quick pointers that I use when I go out and talk to technology companies. The first is around focus. So this will date me a little bit, but a movie from a little while ago with Billy Crystal is called City Slickers. There's an old grouchy cowboy in there named Curly. And Curly's quote for the movie, and it's the one thing I remember from this movie, it's been eons, but the secret to life for Curly is one thing. And why this is important is a lot of times I'll go and meet technology companies, and the first thing they talk to me about is all the different things they want to do or they are doing for their customers. So for me, one of the telltale signs of a really good company is the one thing. This is the thing that we love, we're passionate about, and we're going to knock out of the park. Honestly, it's almost more that it's not one thing, it's that they're willing to say no to everything else. A good example of this, I work with a company called Marketo. They do lead nurturing. There is a very specific use case that they built their technology for. They've had a lot of other people come to them to do additional things, and they've continued to say no. That's the one thing they do. If you're not trying to do this specific thing, you should go somewhere else. And they've had a ton of success because they've been able to operationalize and commercialize this idea. Another great example, maybe on the negative side, is we've all been familiar with Netflix here in the recent past. So as companies get bigger, they're naturally going to add on new products, and they're going to become more things to more people. That's natural, but I think Netflix, with their diversion away and breaking apart their company into 2 different parts, is just a great example of when you get away from the one thing, you can cause a lot of problems. So the other key criteria point I always look at is to keep it simple. So again, a lot of great ideas, we're all smart people, but I often find that the best companies are those that just make a better mousetrap. It's so much easier to draft off of a known concept or competitors in a space and just adjust it enough to where there's another group of folks that are willing to pay for that. So as you're going through this, a lot of just, again, it's easy to have a great idea, but think about how are you going to package this up, how are you going to present it. Again, that's 60 minutes, 30 seconds, however you want to do that. It goes by very, very quickly. So anyways, that's just a good tip I use. And then the third one that is just a great one is around your beachhead. So you have an idea, you have your company, who are you going to sell it to? So is it B2B, is it B2C? Help me understand, you can sell to technology, you can sell to real estate, all these different categories, all these different people you can sell to, and it's choose one. So again, who have you validated this with? Whose pain point are you solving? Oftentimes I look at companies that are just starting out, and they may be, their DNA was from the travel industry. Great. Make the travel industry your very first beachhead. Only sell to the travel agency, get use cases, get people talking about you, and guess what? It's very easy to move from one beachhead to the other beachhead. So I don't know, has anybody here read Crossing the Chasm with Geoffrey Moore? So it's a great book. If you haven't read it, read it. It just talks about how to commercialize ideas. How do you go from incubation to that next step? So a lot of what I do in my daily life is I commercialize technology. I commercialize ideas. It's how do you make a 2-person startup a 10-person, a 100-person, 500-person startup. And it's all about those incremental steps. So hopefully those 3 items are good ones. I know they're easy, they're top of mind, but it's always good to have a refresher as well. And probably 2 other key things that I always like, I'm often prompted of on these 2 topics, so I think they're really relevant. And one is around your business model. So I'm a big fan of the Canvas that you guys are getting ready to go through, we use this ourselves. So it's the business model generation. It's a fairly large, easy to read book. So a couple things to keep in mind there. One is a business model is critical to a company's long-term success, but you almost don't want to do it too quickly. And what I mean by that is spend your time and energy iterating your idea, finding customers for that idea, know what your business model is in a ballpark, if you will. Paul Graham, who does the Y Combinator, is a great, he has some great quotes on this. I can't ring them off the top of my head, but it's important for us to be cognizant of the business model, but not so focused on it that we lose sight of what we're actually creating. So a couple themes on the business model. I'm a big fan of recurring revenue. Oftentimes we only think this in technology. So technology, we understand it, it's software as a service or a platform as a service. We can charge recurring money, and that's true. But a number of other businesses have done this. So if you look at cable, cell phone, you can apply the recurring revenue across the board. So those are just, I think, some good tidbits around the business model itself. The other one I'll just mention is branding. So a lot of companies, startups specifically, have a great idea. Let's launch it. What name do we want to choose? We'll spend 5-10 minutes figuring out what the name is, and we'll go. The big thing I tell people is spend the extra cycles, whether it's time, money, energy, you name it, on the branding up front, especially as you go to that next step of actually forming a true company that you want to put money in. It's so hard once you've launched a company to actually come back and have to retread. Where all this equity we've put into this empty vessel name, we get 6 months, 12 months down the road, and all of a sudden we have to do a reboot. It's hard, it takes your eye away from the ball. So do your due diligence up front, and then put a lot of thought leadership around what you're doing. Your brand is going to be something that's very valuable. Technology specifically, anybody can create technology. They can take an idea. It's hard to actually patent ideas. It's very, very hard to take away thought leadership. So put a lot of thought leadership in what you do into your brand, and it'll go a long way for you. So those are kind of the key items I wanted to hit on for today. I did just want to give everybody a quick, so for those of you that have not gone to the eStanford site, I go there and recommend that a lot. Tons of good videos. In fact, they're doing a free live course of the business model generation starting, I think, in January. So if you guys like what you see today and like what you're using with the Canvas here in the next 48 hours, I would highly recommend signing up for that course. It's free, and it's just a great way of taking that next step from the business side of the world. So I'll be around all today, or tonight I should say. Grab me if you want. My information's out there too. Would love to connect. Any questions?
What was the Curly reference? What was the quote for Curly?
The Curly is the one thing. So his secret to life is find the one thing that's important. And it's kind of cheesy, but I think it's also important as we apply that to business. So yeah, now we'll all go find that movie out wherever it's hidden. Yeah, go ahead.
What was the website you mentioned right at the end? Business plan information?
So it's eStanford. And I think I wrote down the link, so I can jot that down on the board as well. Or it goes directly to the sign up. So that's all I had. Jim, I think you're up.